The chronic victim is someone who has made suffering their identity. No matter what's happening around them, good or bad, they will always find a way to position themselves as the one who's being wronged, misunderstood, or oppressed. It's not that they occasionally have bad days, we all do. But for them, life is an endless parade of unfair circumstances, toxic people, and missed opportunities, and none of it is ever their fault. They move through the world with a mindset that says, the world owes me, or worse, the world is out to get me. This perspective doesn't just damage them, it damages everyone around them. What makes the chronic victim so dangerous is how subtly they affect you. They don't come at you with insults or lies, they come to you with problems, sad stories, wounds they wear like a uniform. Sad stories, wounds they wear like a uniform. They'll cry on your shoulder, they'll tell you they're trying, and they'll ask for your advice, but never apply it. Over time, they become emotional black holes, pulling you into their chaos under the disguise of needing support. But the truth is, they're not looking for solutions, they're looking for sympathy. And the moment you stop giving it, they'll claim you've abandoned them or become just like everyone else. You start to feel guilty for setting boundaries. You second guess your own instincts, and before you realize it, you've become a caretaker for someone who doesn't want to get better. Their entire identity is built around being the one who was wronged. If you confront them or challenge their story, you're met with defensiveness, passive aggression, or complete emotional shutdown. They don't reflect, they deflect every time. You'll hear things like, "You don't understand, that's easy for you to say," or "People always treat me this way." And the longer you stay connected to them, the more you begin to internalize that negativity. You start seeing the world through their lens. You become cautious, skeptical, or even bitter because you've absorbed their worldview without realizing it. Misery doesn't just love company, it breeds it. These people often present themselves as fragile, but in reality, they're highly manipulative in a passive way. They don't threaten you, they guilt you, they don't attack you, they overwhelm you. They don't ask for too much at once, they ask for a little, over and over again, until your life becomes a series of emotional favors you never signed up for. You begin rearranging your own schedule, compromising your own peace, and putting their emotional needs ahead of your own goals. And the scariest part is, they will never thank you for it. In fact, the more you do for them, the more entitled they become. And if you ever pull away or say no, you become the villain in their story, another chapter in their narrative of betrayal and abandonment. This type of person resists growth at every turn. Any suggestion you make about taking responsibility, seeking therapy, or changing their behavior is met with reasons why that won't work, or they've already tried. But when you really look, they haven't tried. Not sincerely, because trying would mean giving up the identity of the victim, and that identity gives them power, attention, and a sense of purpose, even if it's unhealthy. To move forward would mean facing themselves, and that's something they are unwilling to do. They would rather stay stuck and pull others down with them than confront their own role in their suffering. Being around a chronic victim is like trying to move forward while dragging a weight behind you. At first, you want to help. You think love and patience will make a difference, but slowly, you lose momentum. Your energy is no longer invested in your dreams, it's invested in managing their emotions. And eventually, you start to feel like a victim yourself. That's when you know, this isn't compassion anymore, it's codependency. And if you don't step away, you'll forget what your own life even feels like without their pain dominating your space. 2-2. You said, "The envious competitor expend this keynote above 600 words without subheadings and without conclusion." ChatGPT said, "The envious competitor is one of the most subtle yet dangerous types of people you can have in your circle. They don't openly insult you. They don't necessarily try to bring you down in front of others. In fact, on the surface, they may seem like your biggest supporter. They'll clap when you win, smile when you share good news, and even offer compliments when things go well for you. But beneath that surface, something else is brewing, a quiet resentment, a bitter jealousy, and a deep insecurity that turns your success into their discomfort. This person doesn't hate you. What they hate is your progress. They hate the fact that you're doing what they wish they could. Your growth reminds them of their stagnation. Your courage reminds them of their fear. Your wins highlight everything they haven't achieved. So instead of being inspired by you, they become threatened by you. And rather than working on themselves, they turn you into their silent rival. They begin to measure every aspect of their life against yours. If you buy a new car, they need a better one. If you hit a new milestone, they scramble to match it, even if it doesn't align with their own goals. They stop being authentic and start being reactive, constantly adjusting themselves not to grow, but to compete. The danger with the envious competitor is that they're often hiding in plain sight. They don't want you to know how deeply they're affected by your success, so they mask it with sarcasm, passive aggression, or backhanded compliments. They'll say things like, "Wow, must be nice," or "Well, it's easier for you," because they minimize your effort and exaggerate your advantage, all in an attempt to justify to themselves why you're ahead. They can't accept that you simply outworked them, outdisciplined them, or outgrew the limitations they still cling to. So instead, they find ways to dismiss your progress and make it seem like luck or privilege.
Over time, this person becomes draining, not because they're openly negative, but because they create a constant sense of tension. You can feel it in the way they react to your wins. You start holding back from sharing good news, not because you're not proud, but because you know it will trigger something in them. You begin to downplay your success, making yourself smaller to protect their ego. You make excuses for your growth just to make them feel comfortable. And the moment you do that, you've compromised your authenticity for their approval. That's how they win, by making you feel guilty for becoming more. These people don't always sabotage you in obvious ways. Sometimes it's subtle. They'll cast doubt on your ideas. They'll question your decisions at critical moments. They'll suddenly go silent when you need encouragement the most. They won't celebrate your wins unless they're doing better. And when they can't compete directly, they'll try to undermine you indirectly by influencing others' opinions of you, by spreading doubt, or by aligning with people who they think can outperform you. They're not just trying to beat you, they're trying to stay above you at any cost. The envious competitor is driven by fear. Fear of being left behind, fear of being forgotten, fear of not measuring up. But instead of facing that fear with self-reflection and growth, they externalize it by turning their relationships into races. They don't see you as a teammate, they see you as a threat. And no matter how kind, supportive, or loyal you are, it will never be enough to change how they see you, because the real conflict isn't with you, it's with themselves. They are battling their own inadequacy, and you just happen to be the mirror that reflects it. What makes them dangerous is that you can waste years trying to earn their full support, trying to prove you're not a threat, or trying to help them grow with you, but it never works, because they're not interested in growing together. They're interested in staying ahead, even if that means holding you back, even if it means faking support just to stay close, even if it means becoming your shadow until the day they can replace you. That's not friendship, that's silent warfare. And if you don't recognize it early, you'll spend your best years proving yourself to someone who will never clap unless they're winning too. You said the manipulator expend this keynote above 600 words without subheadings and without conclusion. ChatGPT said, the manipulator is not always easy to recognize because they don't walk in shouting their intentions. They are calculated, subtle, and patient. They know how to play the long game. They don't overpower you physically. They overpower you mentally. They don't demand control. They slowly take it by using your emotions against you. They learn your weaknesses, your insecurities, your triggers, and they store that information like ammunition, waiting for the right moment to use it. A manipulator doesn't want connection. They want control. Every word, every gesture, every smile has a hidden motive. It's never about you. It's always about what they can get from you, how they can use you, and how they can keep you exactly where they want you, under their influence. At first, manipulators often appear charming, attentive, and even generous. They'll say all the right things. They'll make you feel seen, special, and validated. You might think, finally, someone who gets me. But what you don't realize is that they're not seeing the real you. They're studying you. They're learning what makes you feel guilty, what makes you say yes, what makes you bend, and what you fear most. Once they have enough information, they slowly start using it to shift the balance of power in their favor. It might start small, subtle guilt trips, passive-aggressive comments, or little moments where you feel like you have to explain yourself. But over time, the pressure builds. You'll begin to feel confused, unsure of your own judgment, and even question your own memories. That's not an accident. That's the strategy. Manipulators create emotional confusion to weaken your clarity. When you're unsure of yourself, they can step in and define the reality for you. They'll twist your words and reinterpret your actions until you find yourself apologizing for things you never did, or defending yourself for choices you had every right to make. They thrive in chaos because chaos makes you easier to control. They love gray areas, emotional outbursts, and unspoken expectations because they know how to navigate confusion better than you do. They use emotions as weapons, guilt as a leash, and fear as a cage. And the more you care about them, the more dangerous they become. One of the manipulator's favorite tools is guilt. They know how to make you feel responsible for their emotions, their problems, and even their poor decisions. If they fail, it's because you didn't support them enough. If they're unhappy, it's because you're selfish. If you set a boundary, they make you feel like you're abandoning them. They use your compassion against you until you feel like being kind means being controlled. You begin to confuse love with sacrifice. You believe that to care for someone means to constantly compromise yourself. And that's exactly what they want. Another tactic they use is selective kindness. When you pull away or start asserting yourself, they suddenly become sweet again. They compliment you, agree with you, even apologize, but only just enough to pull you back in. It's not real change, it's bait. They don't fix the behavior, they just reset the cycle. And every time you forgive them without change, they learn how much more they can get away with. You start to doubt your own boundaries. You begin to think maybe you're overreacting. And before you know it, you're stuck in a loop, one that slowly drains your confidence, your identity, and your ability to trust yourself. What makes the manipulator truly dangerous is that they don't just take your energy, they take your freedom. They influence how you think, how you feel, and how you move. You begin to anticipate their reactions before making decisions. You hesitate to be yourself around them. You walk on emotional eggshells to keep the peace. And even when you're away from them, their voice echoes in your head. That's not love. That's not friendship. That's control dressed up as concern, affection, or loyalty. And if you don't recognize it for what it is, you'll keep giving pieces of yourself to someone who only values you as long as you stay under their thumb. You said the chronic liar. Expend this keynote above 600 words without subheadings and without conclusion. ChatGPT said, the chronic liar is one of the most destructive people you can ever let into your life, not just because of the lies themselves, but because of the long-term damage those lies create. With a chronic liar, it's not just about dishonesty, it's about instability. Every conversation, every memory, every plan becomes uncertain. You start second-guessing everything you once believed was true, and the worst part is that the chronic liar doesn't always lie to harm you directly. Sometimes they lie just to avoid discomfort. Sometimes they lie because they've made lying a habit so natural, they don't even realize they're doing it anymore. But regardless of the reason, the effect is the same. They destroy trust, break down clarity, and create an environment of confusion and doubt where real connection cannot survive. You may not notice it at first, especially if the lies are small, little exaggerations, altered details, or convenient omissions. But those tiny distortions pile up, they create a web, and eventually that web wraps around you. You find yourself trying to make sense of contradictions. One day they say one thing, the next day it's something else entirely, and if you confront them, they'll either deny, deflect, or turn it back on you. You'll hear phrases like, I never said that, you must be remembering wrong, or why are you always so suspicious? They won't admit to the lie, they'll question your reality, and that's when it gets truly dangerous, because the chronic liar doesn't just twist the truth, they twist your mind, they thrive in the fog, they create just enough uncertainty to keep you off balance. One moment they're charming, sincere, even vulnerable. The next, they're defensive, secretive, and evasive. And when you finally start putting the pieces together, when you begin to see the patterns and realize that things don't add up, they'll either gaslight you or spin a new lie to cover the old one. You never get a straight answer. You never feel grounded. You can never fully relax because you're always wondering what's real and what's been fabricated. That mental tension eats away at your peace of mind. The chronic liar is skilled at creating a false image. They craft personas to fit whatever situation benefits them most. Around some people, they're confident and successful. Around others, they're humble and struggling. They tell different versions of the same story depending on who's listening. And when those worlds collide, they blame miscommunication or other people for the inconsistencies. They never take ownership, because for them, truth is not something to honor, it's something to manage. They treat reality like clay, molding it into whatever serves their needs in the moment, regardless of how it impacts others. Eventually, being around a chronic liar turns into emotional exhaustion. You start questioning your instincts. You wonder if you're too paranoid. You replay conversations in your head, trying to spot where things shifted. And all of that mental strain is the result of trying to build trust on a foundation that doesn't exist. Because that's the real cost of chronic lying. It makes true intimacy impossible. You can't open up to someone when you don't know if they're being real with you. You can't make plans with someone when you're not sure they mean what they say. You can't build a future with someone who's constantly rewriting the past. What's worse is that chronic liars often play the victim when caught. They'll say they lied because they didn't want to hurt you, or they were scared, or they didn't know how to tell the truth. They'll twist the story to gain your sympathy, and in doing so they manipulate your forgiveness. But each time you let it slide, each time you overlook a lie, you're reinforcing their belief that the truth doesn't matter. And slowly your standards erode. You become numb to the red flags. You convince yourself that maybe a little dishonesty is just part of the relationship, but it's not. Trust is not optional. It's not a luxury. It's a requirement. Without it, nothing else holds. And once you've been entangled with a chronic liar, you realize that the damage they do isn't always loud. It's silent. It's the slow unraveling of belief, safety, and peace. You said the energy leech. Toxic negativity. Expend this keynote above 600 words without subheadings and without conclusion. ChatGPT said, the energy leech, often masked as a friend or close acquaintance, is one of the most draining people you can have around. Unlike others, who may openly challenge or confront you, the energy leech works quietly but relentlessly, slowly sucking the life and enthusiasm right out of your spirit. Their defining characteristic is toxic negativity, a persistent, unshakable outlook that focuses solely on problems, failures, and setbacks, never on solutions or hope. This negativity isn't just a bad mood or occasional complaint, it's a habitual way of being that infects every conversation and interaction. Being around such a person feels like stepping into a room where the air is thick with gloom, where every word spoken dims your own light. These people rarely offer any constructive input or encouragement. Instead, their conversations revolve around what's wrong with life, with other people, with circumstances beyond their control. They complain endlessly about their job, their relationships, the government, the weather. Nothing is ever good enough or right enough. It's a constant stream of pessimism that wears you down, little by little. You may start out feeling sympathetic, wanting to support them or help them see a brighter perspective. But as time goes on, you realize that no matter what you say or do, their negativity is a fixed point. It doesn't change.
It's like trying to fill a bucket with water while it's full of holes. What makes the energy leech especially dangerous is that their negativity is contagious. You may not even notice it at first, but their constant focus on the negative begins to alter how you see the world. You start anticipating problems instead of opportunities. You question your own optimism and doubt your ability to overcome challenges. Your motivation falters because you unconsciously absorb their defeatist mindset. You stop dreaming big because you've been conditioned to expect failure. In their presence, your energy diminishes, your confidence wanes, and your hope flickers. You feel mentally and emotionally drained after every interaction, like you've run a marathon without moving your feet. Another subtle way they affect you is by blocking your growth. When you try to share your goals or exciting plans, they respond with skepticism or cynicism. They question your chances of success, warn you about potential pitfalls, or belittle your efforts. Instead of celebrating your progress, they cast shadows over your achievements. This constant undermining can shake your self-belief and make you second-guess your decisions. You might find yourself hiding your wins or downplaying your dreams just to avoid their negative reactions. Over time, their toxic mindset fences you in, limiting your vision and holding you back from reaching your true potential. Energy leeches also rarely take responsibility for their attitude. If you confront them about their negativity, they might accuse you of being insensitive or unrealistic. They may say things like, "I'm just being honest," or "I'm not the problem, the world is." This deflection prevents any real change because they refuse to see how their mindset affects others. They thrive in the role of the perpetual victim or pessimist, unwilling to consider alternative perspectives. Their refusal to take ownership of their outlook makes it nearly impossible to shift the dynamic or improve your relationship with them. The emotional toll of dealing with an energy leech can manifest in many ways. You might feel anxious before conversations, drained afterward, or even avoidant when you see them coming. Your mental clarity suffers because your mind is constantly distracted by their negativity. You might start experiencing feelings of frustration, helplessness, or even resentment, emotions that weigh heavily on your overall well-being. The longer you stay close to such a person, the more you risk letting their toxic energy shape your own identity and worldview. You may find yourself slipping into habits of complaining, doubting, or seeing the glass as half empty, mirroring the very negativity you once resisted. What's crucial to understand is that protecting yourself from an energy leech isn't about being mean or cutting people off without reason. It's about safeguarding your mental and emotional health. You can be compassionate and supportive without letting their toxicity consume you. Setting boundaries around how much time and energy you spend with them is essential. It's okay to step back or limit contact if their presence consistently leaves you depleted. Your energy is a valuable resource, and you have the right to conserve it for people and situations that nourish you, not drain you. In the end, energy leeches don't want you to thrive because their worldview is rooted in scarcity and despair. They want to keep you tethered to the same gloom they live in, whether consciously or unconsciously. But you don't have to accept that. You have the power to choose who you allow into your inner circle and how much influence they have over your mindset. Surround yourself with those who lift you higher, who see possibilities where others see problems, and who fuel your fire rather than extinguish it. Because your energy is precious, and how you protect it will determine the course of your life.
Tools